One of the ways that I've been using masks lately is by creating some weird and wonderful shapes in my image editor. Just for a moment, let me draw your attention to these two. You can see this one says hard mask left, which just means the line down the center is sharp, not soft, and the masking of course is in the white area, so it's on the left, and this looks to be an exact reverse of this, but in actual fact it isn't. I've created these in my image editor, and I think it may be worthwhile just going in there and showing how that's done, because they're not exactly half and half. So practically any version of Photoshop will do for this. Any version of Elements will also do for this. Let's go to File, New. I need a 1920 1080 shape, and I need it black. I need to know where the center point of my artwork is. Now that's pretty easy to do. Most modern image editing software gives us rulers, and we've got rulers here if I can find them. Control R is a shortcut, and if I go into the ruler and drag, I can drag a vertical marker and it will snap, he says, it will snap to the center part of my artwork. If I can go slow enough, there it is. So I now know I've got 50-50. So I want one side white, one side black, but I actually want a little bit more than 50-50. I'm just going to pinch a couple of pixels this way just to make sure that when I use these masks with one image for the left half and the right half, I don't see a line down the center. So one of the ways to do that in Photoshop is to pick up the rectangular marquee tool, click and drag, and it will snap to that center line. Now all I'm going to do is expand my selection 2 pixels, so it just encroaches over the line a tiny amount. To do that, if we go to Select, Modify, Expand, I'll put 2 pixels in there. When I click OK, we hardly see any difference, but if I was to zoom in, you can see that I've just pinched just a couple of pixels, just enough to make sure that when these are applied to an image on the left and the right, we're not going to see a little thin line down the center. So what I need to do within that selection is to flood it with white. White is my background color. Control backspace will flood that. So there's my mask for the right hand side. So we would save that as a JPEG file, but now I want this white to be on this side, but I still want that 2 pixels encroaching over the line. So probably the best way to do that is via Image, Image Rotation, 180 degrees. So now my white is on the left, but if I zoom in a little bit, you can see I've still got the 2 pixels overlap just there. Now I've already saved these, so we've got them ready and waiting for us inside of PicturesToExe. Now that probably wasn't a good choice of words, because of course they're not within PicturesToExe, they're within the folder where I'm working with PicturesToExe. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make another blank here, and I'm going to open up this into the Objects and Animation screen and go to my mask. But here I'm going to add a blank mask, because I'm going to put my own mask stencil in here and then the image. So let's select the mask stencil, right click and add an image, and I can go back now and I can select one or the other of these. Let's start with the left one first and go to the mask content, right click and add image. Well, we can choose any one of these images. Let's stay with this one. So there you can see what we have. We've got one image which is masked one side. So what I'm going to do now is copy the entire mask container. What we could do, I suppose, is say mask, well, let's say mask left, whether that's the exact correct term for this, but let's call it mask left. But I'm going to highlight that, Control C, click down here and Control V, and we'll call this one mask right. Just makes it easy for us to distinguish the two. Now the only thing we want different in mask 2, of course, is we don't want two left masks. We want the right mask here. But I've got the right image, so all I need to do is to highlight hard mask left, go to my properties picture and change it for hard mask right. Now at first appearance, after all of those files down the right hand side, it appears that the image is just one single image, but of course it isn't. It's made up of two halves, which allows us some creative freedom. We also have the opportunity with the masks we have there to apply them to a frame. Now if, like me, you have begun work and then thought, I should have created a frame, it's not a problem. Just click to remove any selections and then select a frame. Select mask left and mask right. Right click and choose cut. Then right click the frame and paste. And what we've got then is our parent and child relationship. Let me just collapse those two just for a moment, because now we can animate mask left and right, but we do have the opportunity to maybe adjust the zoom rate of both of them together using the frame, and as I said, that can often be quite useful. All I'm going to do here is create a couple of keyframes. I'll use the insert facility here, and I'll line them up for both of the masks, one left, one right, and we'll put them at, let's say, the 4-second point. So let's do the first one first, the left. Between this point and this point, I want to rotate the mask. So I'm going to tick the rotate box, and the one I want is Y, and you can see what I'm doing here. Let's make it 50% just for a moment, and if this one is a positive 50, then if I do the other mask, that needs to be a negative 50. And this is what I mean about using a frame, because I think you're going to see this a little better if I just drop the sides down, put my cursor at the start and press play. You can see the sort of animation we've created there. Now let's make just one or two adjustments here. I'll select both of my masks, the first of the keyframes, and we'll bring this round to, let's make it 90, and make the other one -90, because that should bring us to virtually nothing in the middle, whether we've got enough time with 4 seconds, and of course we would need to add speed here. Now one of my favorite speeds for this sort of thing is to go to the animation that we've chosen. In our case it's rotate. I choose the animation speed and the custom, because the custom default is 50/50, and I find that quite pleasing. So let me just apply that so we get a good view of a good preview when we decide to have a look. Now if we brought the frame into play here and we added a keyframe, we've got the opportunity to make adjustments, maybe a little bit to the zoom, so we could drop the zoom down a little bit. So it takes a little bit of trial and error, but in the end you can see we can create some quite nice effects, because we could have the next effect coming back up in a similar way. And it's always very easy, as you probably know by now, especially with mask left and right, to reverse the settings that we have. So if you want to see what it looks like the other way, we can put -90 in that one and 90 in this one. And there we've got a different folding option. One of the things I like about masks is when I open them up and I go to the two images, I can go to my properties and I can add borders here. Now I'm going to use pixels. I'm going to pick just 4 pixels. I'll leave it in white. Let's close down the objects and animation screen. We'll put a picture behind and we'll stick one in front of this, and let's just take a quick look. I'm not sure the timings are very good at the moment, but we'll just take a quick look. And of course what we could do, let's go back in here, we could have the masks, we could have these going to the full length here. So if I selected both of those and took it to that position, then of course you're going to see the effect as this one appears on screen. So let's try that once more. There's so many variations here that it's impossible to cover them all, of course. But you can see what I mean with just a small change. The other thing we need to remember, of course, if we increase the slide time here, we can go to the objects and animation screen, and with the mask left and right, of course, it probably may be better if we start it somewhere around there. And remember too, whatever we're creating here could be saved as a slide style or even recreated as a custom transition. So let me come out of that now, back to this one. And of course it would be nice to have a background in there, but we've done that a number of times already. We could use the same image or we could use the next one. Lots and lots of choices. But there you can see pretty quickly and easily, using a mask, how we can create some quite nice effects. Now I've just made a couple of small changes and added the background because I don't think the black was looking that attractive. And now you can see what we have here. Once we've got it created, let's have a look at how the masks look with some of these applied to them. I've got 2 sets of 2 here. I want to introduce bands 1 and bands 2 to make a start. So I'm going to go back into this particular image and objects and animation screen. There's the background that I just put in place, just made it soft. We've done that a few times so far. Nothing much has changed there, but I do have my keyframes nicely lined up now, so it looks a little bit more attractive to the eye. But what I want to do is open up my masks because I want to change the mask stencil for both of them. So let's start with this one. Let's go to the properties, picture. I'm going to use band 1 and 2 to show you what I mean or meant a little while ago when I said we need to be careful we don't see the lines when we create these. We have to create them just a smidgen bigger than we really think. Let me bring that one into play. Band 1. Select the other one. Change that for band 2. Now when I put my cursor at the front, can you see the faint lines of all the shapes there? And if this was at 100%, which it would be in our slideshow, you can see there's a little bit of a problem here. That's what I was referring to when I said about trying to make sure when we create the shapes they're just a pixel or 2 bigger than we need them. So I'm going to switch these again because the other 2 bands that I made have been made in that way. So they're just a pixel larger. So band 3 and band 4. I probably am going to need to remove, I'm going to remove the border of this, and we'll come out of this now and we'll just take a quick look without changing anything at all. And I think that one thing you notice when you do something like that, and let's go back in, is there are times when you make a change as we've just done, and now to have a background in place doesn't look quite so good. So I'm going to remove that. And not only that, I'm going to change my background here to white. So I'm going to go to my slide options, main, solid color, and switch to white. Doesn't have to be white, of course, it can be an off grey or any other color you see fit. Now you've got both of those mask stencils changed, we could collapse them once again, and we could look at making some adjustments to the animation. Whether the animation is right now to do what we allowed to happen, which was to use the rotate Y. Let's try something else. Let's reset that, select the other keyframe and reset that. Let's adjust the zoom too. Let's go back to this point and we'll make this 85 and we'll have this 85 for now. So what we're going to do between these 2 points is really just letting our imagination go. And of course what we could do is work in reverse, couldn't we? We could have these 3 coming to an end before it leaves the screen, and we could have these 3 all starting back here. So if we go to the first keyframe of the mask left, what do we want to do to try to create something which is nice on the eye? Well, your guess is as good as mine. We can try zooming, either one or both, just at different amounts. Let's try that. So we're going to zoom one quite a lot and one not that much. I think it may be best if we look at these here. You can see this is an experimental type of manipulation. But it's working quite well, but we would need to consider speed here again, because I don't think the speed was quite right. So we would need to go back to the first of the keyframes, because remember we put the speed on the rotate and now we've changed everything to a zoom. So once again, animation speed, custom, I'll tuck it away. Animation speed, zoom, custom, and tuck it away. And I think we've got rather too much time there, so let's close the gap up. Now that one's 85 and that's 85, that's okay. Let's try it from in here. That's a little bit more rapid and a little bit easier on the eye. But of course it's dead easy to change this to its maximum. Let's come out and have a look here. Now I've got a number of these techniques created and saved as slide styles. So I'm going to select a few of those and put them in a folder for you to be able to copy them to your desktop and try them on your own images. Because of course once you apply them to an image like this, you can then open them up into the objects and animation screen. You'll see the mask or 2 copies of the mask, but of course you can then have a play around with some of the animation techniques and make any changes you see fit. I think with the one we've got here, I think it probably needs to start back there, and these probably need to come forward. So you can see it is a degree of trial and error to get what we want. And I think with my frame, I could knock this back to 100% and this back to 100%. So you can see whatever we do, it does make a significant change to the effect we create.